Whoopsies. All right, welcome back to another lovely evening in the bathroom. Off camera, I finished up this window. I went through and did the second pass just like I did on the other window that you guys saw of filling in these joints fully with mortar. So I just did that the other day. Still have some haze to buff off of here. Turned out all right. There's some spots that like here aren't quite as even as I would have hoped, and a little bit of porosity and stuff. But all in all, I think this one went smoother than that one, partly because it's smaller, but also just a little bit more experience. The only big gripe I have after doing this window is after seeing this window being centered with these little half blocks, makes me really feel like I should have done that over there. That one being off center just drives me nuts for some reason, but you live and you learn. Whatever. I'm not changing it now. So I'm gonna stop on this for now. I do need to do the final caulk around the outside of this window. I got some more flex, which is like flexible mortar sealant that will basically seal the gap. Same thing I did over on that window. That'll make this weatherproof, tight, no bugs, nothing like that. And then once I do that, I'll do the insulation on the inside here, the rest of these furring strips to make it all look cohesive and done. So all in all, a couple days, really wasn't as bad as I had anticipated, which may be par for the course. I tend to build these things up in my head more than they deserve, but nevertheless, it is done. Today I just have a little bit of time here. Don't have a ton of motivation, so I'm just going to try and get an easy win. Take one small bite, still gets you towards the end goal. And that's going to be to install an outlet right here. So this is going to be to the right of the vanity, and on either side I'm going to have a set of outlets so that, if you had a toothbrush or, razor or blow dryer or whatever, you plug right into the side. So this is 36. This is where I marked it. That's going to be the top of the countertop. And then I'm going to go up 2 inches. I'm going to put my receptacle box right here. And that's going to take power directly here. This will be always powered. And then from this box, I can run a leg over to this switch box that will power the fan, the water closet. And then I'll also run from here down. I'm going to put an outlet behind our toilet. I started doing this on the first bathroom I renovated maybe 5 years ago. I put an outlet behind the toilet, and it just came. Originally it was for like a bidet or a heated seat or something like that. But it came in so handy for, a speaker, a little Alexa or something, or I've just found that to be super handy. So while I have the walls open and everything, I like to stick an outlet behind the toilet. So I've done that on every bathroom I've done since, and they've always come in handy. So I'm going to do the same thing there. I bought some shallow boxes, which will be needed to get kind of in this insulation. It'll sit just like that, screw to the back wall, and then the drywall will come up and around it. But I needed to get shallow boxes so I don't have to go into the block. So I'm going to install a couple of these. So one behind the toilet, and then I'm going to put one on either side of the vanity. Again, in case you have stuff charging and stuff under this vanity. This vanity is going to have 2 pull-out drawers. All of those outlets are going to be fed from this single box. So I'm going to start with this box, run that under to where the power is going to all come together. And that's my only goal for tonight. So small little win. But I did go and pick up a new set of spade bits. So hopefully drilling through these studs and stuff will be much easier today. All right, that's enough yapping and procrastinating. Let me just go ahead and do this, get a couple things checked off. All right, before I launch in here, I did want to mention I am going to use these special boxes that I have that are adjustable depth. So you can, with this little screw right here, you can suck the box in or out of the wall. I'm going to use that at these locations because I'm not entirely sure what we're going to do with the surround here for the like backsplash or whatever. I'm not sure we're going to wrap it around, or if we do, it's going to add thickness to the wall, and this will be greatly appreciated, to just be able to screw it out. So that's just a little future proofing, and I had a couple of these left from a different project. My old favorite game of fishing. Drill the hole this way, drill the hole that way. And you probably can't see it, but the wire is just poking out right there. So I gotta fish it just the last little bit here. Well, I think I'm gonna call it there. Didn't get a ton done today, but I did get this box installed with the wire run to it, a little service loop. I do need to route out a little depression right here to sink that plate. I found that these metal plates, just the thickness of that plate is enough to cause a hump in your drywall. So I like to take my router and buzz that down a little bit so it sits nice and flush. So I don't have my router in here today, but I need to do that. This wire is now run under the floor. Got my central kind of distribution box mounted up. Right now I just have it to the side of the stud, or the joist rather, but I think before I finish with it, and I might do all the connections and stuff there, but before I am done, I'll probably swing it around and stick it underneath, just because the access, I think it'd be a lot better to be up from the bottom than kind of in this tight side if you ever needed to service this. But I don't know, not a big deal either way. But my wires are run to here. The wire I ran previously for the exterior outlet, I ran way too long because I didn't know where this box was going to end up, which is fine. A little bit of waste wire. And then I got my outlet tied in here, snaked down through the floor. Same thing with the feed coming in here, and that'll come up and tie right in here. Replace this guy. I'm not ready to pull that quite yet because I want to get the new lights installed in here before I do that, so I can get rid of that one. So that's probably one of the next steps I'll do here. Yeah, not a ton of progress, but every little bit helps. So it's also getting hot. You can probably see my shirt starting to change colors. I have this vent plugged, so we weren't just air conditioning this unconditioned space, but man, with that window closed up now, I'm going to need to unblock that, I think, and figure out a way to get a little bit more air movement, put a fan in these windows or something. But anyhow, summer is coming. All right, I'm going to put this floor back and be done for the day. We'll catch you the next time I'm in here. All right, welcome back to another lovely Saturday morning in the bathroom. Hoping to have a bit of a big work day today, because I am out of town for work all week next week, and then we've got St. Patrick's Day coming up after that, the weekend. So me and my friends always like to do a big St. Patrick's Day gathering. So shout out to the St. Patrick's Day crew if you're watching this. We'll be with you guys next weekend, but that means I'm not going to be in here next weekend. So I want to get another good push on this bathroom. We're really marching towards covering up these walls, which will be a huge milestone. So I'm really excited for that. So I'm trying to keep the momentum going. So to help me in that today, I created a little to-do list. These are the couple steps I want to make sure I get through today. So caulk this window, and then I need to cut this filler strip. So I'm going to cut that, I'm going to install it, and then I'm going to finally glue down this sheet of plywood. It just always makes me nervous because I always feel like I'm forgetting something, and yeah, I'm going to need to get under there again or something. But that's just the price of progress. I got to just keep going. And then the next thing to do is map out this shower wall and frame it up. So that's going to be a partition wall that goes right here. This partition wall is going to house all of our shower valves and diverters and niches and all that kind of stuff. So that's really kind of the next thing to get framed up in here. and I need that sheet to be finalized before I go do all this. So that's where I want to get to today, is have this wall installed so I can start running all the rest of the plumbing, and maybe I'll add a bonus item to install this last piece of insulation and furring strips, because that also needs to be done now that the window is in, so it'll look like that. I'm gonna go outside and get the ladder. I really hate caulking. It just never goes how I want it to go. I feel like maybe I have a little too much perfectionist in me, that I can't ever lay like a perfect bead like you see on, you know, the satisfying videos on the internet. So I'm just gonna have to struggle with it, but that's why I always feel like I procrastinate on stuff like a little caulk line, just because it drives me nuts. It's messy, never turns out the way I want it, but I just have to do it. All right, it probably doesn't look really any different in here, but that outside perimeter is now caulked. You can kind of see a little bit. Use some backer rod to give me a place to caulk against. I didn't take you out there with me because, like I said, it's like one of the most frustrating things for me to do. So nobody wants to watch that. Plus, it's just caulking. So, but that means step one done. Let's move on. I'll actually film some of this time. Whoopsies. You're good. I'm cut. So I ripped 4 strips to save a little bit of material, because they just need to be real thin. So these 4 are going to piece in here just like this. Looks like I might be a little long. I'm hitting the furring strip over there. To get those in, I'm going to pull this sheet up, probably this one, and just do them all at the same time. But I need to find, I can't lean it up against that wall because I need access there, so I'll have to figure out how to do that. Woo, it's hot. It's finally summer in Florida. This is probably the wrong shirt for the day. Sweating, but got this in. Nice and sturdy, stable, nailed off like crazy, not going anywhere. I installed the filler strip up to here. I'm gonna hold off on this piece, I think, because I think it'll just make it easier to get this sheet in and out while that's not in there. So let's go ahead and cross off a couple things. So that, ooh, got the thin one. No, thick boy. All right, filler strip, I'm gonna call that done. Glue down sheet, also done. So I gotta map out the shower wall, but before I do that, I'm going to lift this sheet, partially because it needs to be lifted anyway, to map this out properly and make sure I have provisions under there for this wall. But also with this glue, I glued right along this seam, and I want to make sure I don't accidentally glue that sheet down. So while the glue's wet still, I'm going to pick that up. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some squeeze out in there. That's going to try and hold that sheet in. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that up, and then we'll get to mapping out this wall. Okay, here's what I'm mapping out. Basically these two lines represent the outer edge of the framed partition wall here, and they'll go all the way across to that wall. We're gonna have a shower door in the middle right here that's gonna go into the shower. So what I need to figure out is where this wall needs to end so that I have space for the shower door and the framing on that side. So I was just drawing up here. So hope you can see this. Basically, we have the outer wall right here, and then this is going to be a bit of a stub that comes out, some couple studs right here, so that the shower door is something nice and solid to attach to. So I'm going to do 2 studs. It'll bring this out 3 inches. And then I have backer board and tile that I'm going to count for 1 inch of thickness. It's a 1/2 inch backer board, and then I think the mortar and tile should add about another 1/2 inch. So that gives me 1 inch of space needed there. Then the shower door is going to mount, and it's going to swing 30 inches wide. And then on this side, I'll have the same thing over here, another inch of backer board and tile mortar, and then the edge of the framing should be here. So this face right here in relation to this outer face should be 3 inches plus 1 inch plus 30 inch plus 1 inch. So that's 35 inches away from this outer wall face. So basically where my tape is hitting, it needs to come out 35 inches, which is right here. So I need to end my wall right at 35 inches. So I need to build out some more of my favorite stuff, blocking, to connect this into the floor system so that this half wall that's sticking up is nice and strong this way, right? Because when if you run into it or something, bump it, there's glass on the top, it doesn't go all the way up, so that needs to resist wanting to tip over. So that's why I'm going to tie it in real good to the floor system here. Thankfully it lands not too far away from this floor joist, so I'll probably throw some more blocks in this way and bridge it all in there and see how nice and tight I can make it. Probably use some structural screws and stuff to make that as beefy as I possibly can. All right, that's mapping out the floor. I'm gonna go double check the specs on the shower door width, make sure the rough opening is exactly 30 inches. I know I've looked it up before, but if I get that wrong, then I have to get a custom door, and nobody wants to go down that road. So I'm gonna double check those specs, double check the tile that we're planning to use, make sure that inch is enough of provision for it. The thing is, I don't want to make it too tight and then it doesn't fit, but I don't want to make it too loose to where we have a 1/2 inch gap along the whole seam where water's going to just pour out of there. You know, when you're in the shower and stuff, water splashing around, we're going to get wet. So I want it to be super tight, but not too tight. That's the needle I'm trying to thread. So, all right, I'm going to go double check my specs before I dive into this and start throwing a bunch of wood at it. All right, well, I'm really glad I just went and checked those specs, because this I had it as an inch, but it's really going to be like 1/2 inch of backer board and 5/8 here. So this should be like an inch and an eighth on both of these, which means instead of 35, I should have 35 1/4 to this face. And that should give me the end width of exactly 30, which is what these shower doors that I'm planning on purchasing need. So I think 35 1/4 is my magic number. All right, I've got this thing pretty well secured in here. The last thing I'm going to do is put this block on top. I've got some shims in here to wedge it nice and tight, so this stack stays really good and tight. And then I'm going to glue this down to these blocks just to give it a little bit more support. I'm going to have to drill through this to put my water lines in, but that's okay. And then I'm going to sink these 8-inch structural screws all the way in the stack, just like that. So one at the top and one at the bottom, and that should hold this good and firm. I added this piece of 3/4 inch plywood in here just in case. These boards, I've had them for a couple weeks sitting outside drying. It's been really dry, so they should be as dried out as they're gonna be. If for whatever reason this wanted to curve or bow when it's dried out, when it dries out, this 3/4 inch plywood is gonna add a lot of rigidity there, and it also really stiffens up this stack. I mean, this thing is solid. So I'm gonna go ahead and pound these shims in to make this tight, then sink these screws in all the way. My impact driver won't even do it. I have to use the drill because these things are a beast. And then this will be good to go. Yeah, that ain't going nowhere. I also added these 3-inch structural screws. You can see one there, one on the bottom, and then there's 2 on this side too, holding in these blocks, because these blocks are what's primarily resisting this bending moment this way. I feel good about that. Nice and sturdy. So you can see it just catches the top, just misses the bottom. So we're probably out of plumb by, I don't know, 32nd or so. So that's good enough for me. This is good and strong. This seat here is where the top plate of this wall is gonna come across, tie into that wall, and yeah, that'll be the top of this partition. Little door, swing in or out, just like this. Walk into the shower, and then have the valves right here inside this wall, a little niche, and then glass from this level up. All right, I'm gonna stop, eat lunch. I was supposed to stop like 2 hours ago and eat lunch, but all this glue was wet, and I just wanted to get this all in there. Yeah, go eat something, and when we get back, figure out what to do next. All right, I am refueled, ready to keep going for a couple hours. First, I'm looking at my to-do list and checked off a couple more things. So let's see here. We've got mapping out the shower wall, complete. Frame shower wall isn't totally complete, but the post is in, and that's the big thing. So I'm gonna call that done. Need to install this insulation, and that'll actually, I need to do that before I finish framing up this wall anyway, but I've got this sheet in the way now. So I think instead what I'm going to do before I do that insulation and keep framing up this wall, I'm going to fit that sheet back to this hole. So I'm going to add a little bit of blocking here, then I'm going to cut that sheet down to a panel. Basically fits this square, and then there's going to be another piece for this section again, so I can get it up, because I'm still going to have to tie in some electrical, tie in the plumbing, all that stuff. So I want these to be able to just temporarily installed right now. All that to say, a little bit more blocking, so many blocks. Every time I look down here, I'm like, wow, you really went overkill, but whatever. I guess I like blocking, so I'm gonna keep doing it. All right, let's do it. I think I'm calling it there for the day. I got this piece of insulation in here. I don't have it fully screwed off with the furring strips and such because I still need to run some pipes up through this foam. So I'll probably have to pull this one off because the pipes, I think I'm going to set them in the foam and they'll go up this way. So we'll see about that. I made a real mess of this edge, which is kind of a bummer. I overcut it up top. I overcut it on this side. I overcut it on the bottom. Cutting that foam did not go well today, but it's like the last thing I did. Yeah, it's fine. I'm tired. I think I'm gonna call that good enough to cross off the last insulation panel. I guess next time we're in here, probably is going to be framing up the rest of this post. So otherwise, I think made a lot of good progress today. So I'm happy with that. One step closer. All right, we'll catch you on the next one.